you read what Jay Powell said, what was your reaction?
I was glad to see him moving towards beginning tapering this fall. I still think he's operating within the same paradigm that he's been operating in, which, as you know, and those who've been listening to the show know, I don't think is quite right. He made a whole set of arguments on the serene side with respect to inflation. And obviously he may turn out to be correct in those arguments, and there are a lot of people who agree with him. But I was struck, for example, that he didn't say anything about the housing sector. That's the largest part of the consumer price indices. I saw a statistic, Bluemberg actually had it the other day, that said on average when a new tenant moves into a rented residence, they're paying 17% more than the old tenant. That suggests a lot of rental price inflation. If you look at owner-occupied houses, the prices are taking off. None of that has been reflected yet in our price indices. And yet, on any common sense definition, that's surely inflation. And so my guess is you'll start to see the housing component of inflation show up as rising pretty rapidly, or if you don't, it'll reflect defects in the way we create the price indices. The chairman mentioned rightly that we've got record levels of job openings and workers are turning over very fast. Workers are quitting their jobs. I'd have thought that all of that would be a signal that in a labor shortage economy, you'd be starting to see much more rapid wage increases than you'd seen historically, but that was a process that would take a certain amount of time. He was more serene about all of that. He was referencing that we had 4% unemployment before COVID without rapidly accelerating inflation, and he was right about that, of course, but I see that we're having far more structural change in the economy as businesses rethink their business models, when people aren't going to be coming to the office, as people rethink their lives after a year without commuting, as the whole structure of the economy changes. And I think with all that structural change, you're likely to see some substantial increase in the level of unemployment that the economy can sustain without excessive inflation. So there's no certainties, but I think the inflation risks are graver than those that the chairman recognized. I think that the toxic side effects of QE are rather greater than the chairman recognized. So in the range of places where this speech seemed likely to come down, I think this came down in a relatively good place from my point of view, pointing towards a taper this year. But in terms of the issues I've been concerned about for quite some time, that we're kind of making a bit of a paradigm error. I didn't expect that the speech was going to represent a deviation from the paradigm, and I don't think it did.